Hey guys, welcome back to Wrench and Rip. Today we are going to be diving into this Baja Warrior mini bike. It's got a loose headset, really needs to be re-greased, so we're going to go in today. We're going to pull it all apart, re-grease, readjust so it's not knocking all over the place, making all sorts of terrible noises like it is right now. So let's get right to it. Alright guys, so first step, got to take these bars off. We got to take these bolts out. I'm going to set up the camera. I'm going to work on these bars. So let's get started. These bars are actually floating on bushings. When I first got this thing, I thought they were loose and I just could not get them tight. But it turns out they're on these little rubber bushings right here, and a sandwich between these, cheap, of course, metal washers to give the bars a little float so they don't vibrate so much. So if you guys were wondering why your Baja Warrior always has loose handlebars, that's why. You can't get them tight, even if you want to. Okay, we got the bars off. We got all our little bushing parts right over here. Got the bottoms, tops, and these little sleeves that go right in between. Keep them from, clamping down too hard on the rubber bushing. So now we're gonna pull these fork bolts out, and then this is kind of the top cap of our headset here, and then this whole top plate is gonna come off. If you're wondering why this bolt is different, every piece of hardware on this thing is cheap Chinese stuff, and I went to tighten it back up, snapped it right off. So I had to set up something else here, but this side is still going strong. So a little mismatch never bothered anyone. So let's get to taking these bolts out. Bringing in the big guns. Now, if I cared about this thing, I'd probably tape off this, this paint up here. As you can see the scratches here. Hopefully that comes out on camera. I don't really care about this thing. I ride it hard. It's all scratched up anyway. So I'm just gonna go without the protection. Really got to say, the cheapness of some of the stuff, like the hardware on this thing, is really just like amazing. I mean, look at this washer here. Like, is that not the thinnest washer you've ever seen? If I can get that to focus, but I mean, come on guys. It's a washer. How can you cheap out on a washer? But they managed to. I guess that's why these things are only $600 brand new. So that's the last part of that top plate here. As you can see, now we have access to our actual headset adjustment. In this case, we're not to the adjusting step yet. We've got to pull each of these nuts off. You can see how many times I've adjusted this by the, how chewed up those things are. But we're going to pull all these off, and then the whole fork is going to drop out of the bottom of this thing. So let's get started on that. I got this tight last time. Alright, we got ourselves our first hang up here, and that is that this ring, this locking ring, is kind of stuck, hung up on this adjusting ring, this first adjusting ring, which is actually, you know, the top bearing cup. And my adjustable does not get big enough to go around that, so I hate to do it, but have one option now. The old channel lock 440s. So probably chew this thing up a little, but again, don't really care. It's got to come off, so it's more important than chewing it up. We are at the point of no return. We're going to get to see some goods here. Now, normally, you would not want to do this with the bike up on a stand, but in this case, the front tire and front forks are on the ground, so the entire fork is going to fall out. But this is the only thing that's holding it in, so, you know, normally be aware that if you did have this thing, you know, up off the ground in the front too, you would be in for your forks just completely falling out. So let's unscrew this, and we should get to see bearings underneath this. Hopefully there's some bearings left at least. Well, I stand partially corrected. It was off the ground, but as you can see right there, it'll focus for me. Come on there. So as you can see right there, that gap right between the cup and the, you know, the bottom race and the top cup, the whole bike is starting to lean back as the weight of the fork comes off of it. So I will need to find something to support underneath the back tire here and keep it from tilting back. So let's find something for that. Now we have eyes on the prize. There are our bearings, incredibly tiny for you know, this thing. Actually, that's the kind of bearings you'd see on like a cheap bicycle, and you know, they're riding around on this big heavy mini bike, so no wonder why they continuously get loose over and over. There's a little grease left, but not good, so we will definitely take these out, clean them and re-grease them. It's definitely good we're doing this, that's for sure. Okay, we have gotten to the most exciting part of the job here. We're about to pull the forks off the bike so we can get to these bottom bearings and really clean everything out. So I just unplugged the headlight because that's obviously attached to the forks. That's going to come off with them. I tucked the bars kind of underneath there so they're out of my way. And we're going to pull this thing out and hopefully not have this whole bike land on the ground. So wish me luck. Alright, got ourselves a unicycle mini bike now. Okay, so here's what we're looking at here. We got our top bearing, stayed in the cup up here. Bottom bearing is gone. It is over here on our, you know, whatever you'd call this, I guess steer tube. using bike lingo from my bike mechanic experience. So we're pretty much just going to pull these out. I'm going to make note of which one's on the top and the bottom. I think they're identical, but I'd rather put them back on the same races because they kind of, form a nice, close, loving bond with the race that they've been rolling on for a year. So we're going to make sure we put them back on the same one. So this is our bottom here. Take this guy off. Nice and grungy looking. I'm surprised there's actually any grease at all still in these, but there is, so that's good. And we've got top right there, so time to clean these guys up and get them all fresh. I will say, guys, these bearings, man, are they cheap. I mean, I deal with a lot of these working on bikes, and they're pretty sturdy little things. Obviously it's just little balls, held together by this this ring, which kind of keeps them in place. These, I mean, if you move them the wrong way, they just bend. It's just terrible. I'm gonna put them back in because that cage doesn't really do that much other than help you install them. Once it's in there, it really just rides on the balls, but I would not be surprised to see these things totally disintegrate in the near future. But for now, more abuse is headed their way, so. A little suspicious here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the grease is sparkly. Not normally what you want. How's that come out on camera? Sparkle City. Sparkle City. Not good, guys. Not good at all. Should be replacing these, but I don't have the replacements. And I would rather not have this thing sit out of commission for a long time, so oh well. It'll be fine, right? Can't neglect the races themselves, so don't forget about them. We got to clean them up too. Alright, we got these guys all cleaned up, all nice. One thing I did notice that's not very good is this bottom race actually has some play, which is not what you want. So I'm sure that's also contributing to this thing going loose over and over again. I also cleaned up this race over here. So we are ready to grease, reassemble, and we'll be on our way. There is a specific way that these need to go on to these shafts here. This thing up so you guys can see. So this inner ring where it's pretty flush with the balls, and you can see the other side looks different. This side has to go down, so like that. That way the bearings actually roll on the race. If you guys are wondering what kind of grease I'm using, it's Valvoline DB wheel bearing grease from probably the 1970s. Still works. Still greasy. So just like we had to be careful with the bottom bearing in the direction that we put this on, you have to also be careful with the top. This is the first adjustment screw, which also has the race in it. You can see it right there. And the bearing sits this way on that race. Okay, you need to make sure you put it that way. That way it can rotate. Put it the other way. Not going to sit down. you know, it's just not gonna, obviously it's not down on the bearing. So make sure you put it that way, kind of look through and envision how it's gonna go down. So in this case, we need to put this bearing in just like that. Okay guys, we made it this far. It's time to reassemble. First step is to set this steer tube back up through there and get this first adjustment nut on so it doesn't go flying. So let's start with that. Good stuff. It's back on. Everything looks like it's seated up nice, so we're just going to snug this up. I actually remembered too, I have another tool, and this is what I used the last bunch of times I adjust this to grab onto this big nut, because it does get that big. So good thought, we don't need to use the channel locks this time. So let's get the other nuts on, the other adjusting nuts. You pretty much just stack those all on top. We'll get those puppies on, and then we'll adjust the headset. So what I like to do to adjust these headsets is I like to basically snug down this top nut, the first locking nut, snug that down to the adjuster. You can't just keep tightening that, because it'll, you know, move both of them, and then your headset will be way over tight and the steering will be really hard to turn. So you basically snug this down so the steering is a little bit over tight, and then you hold the top and you back this bottom nut up to the top one, and what that does is it not only loosens up your headset just the right amount, but it also really jams this bottom nut against this first lock nut, ensuring that the adjustment doesn't come out, at least doesn't come out right away. It takes a little bit. It takes a little abuse to get it out when you tighten these up good. So I'm going to do that. You can kind of watch how I just explained it. I'm going to throw the second nut on here too, to give it some extra hold while I, when I do the final, basically loosen of this, but consequently tighten into, the locking nuts. So. Okay. Now that's good and tight. Shouldn't come out of adjustment, and it got just loose enough. There's no play, so that is perfect. Now let's put our top plate back on. Well guys, I made a mistake. I forgot that these cables have to go through here before this top plate goes back on. So I've got to undo that top plate again. Set the handlebars over here through this little hole, or big hole, and do it all over again. So here we go. I'll just catch up to you guys once I fix that. Fix my error. Now we're back to the same spot. So let's get these bars remounted. Remember, these flat ones go on top. And these kind of concave ones go on the bottom where the bolts are. So top ones first, then I'm gonna pass these guys through. just like that. And bottom of each side gets one of these with a nut. Okay guys, well that's a wrap on this video. We got our steering rebuilt. It's nice and smooth, nice and tight. No creaking anymore, no cracking or rattling or any of that. So remember, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Comment if your Baja has the same problem, if the headset keeps getting loose on you, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But again, like, subscribe. We have plenty more to fix on this thing. Stuff that I didn't even really mention. So definitely stay tuned. Till then, keep wrenching, keep ripping, guys. I'll see you next time.